Eldorado Eagles. Welcome to Lunchtime Live, our weekly storytime broadcast. Today is going to be our last Lunchtime Live of the year. I was planning on doing one more, but due to some schedule things, it's not going to work out for our last week of school. So, friends, this is our last one. We are continuing our Maker May theme, where we are talking about inventing and creating and building and using different tools and materials we have to create new things and some of the challenges that come with that process of creating. And today I want to share with you a book that I just got into the library called Gadget Disasters: Learning from Bad Ideas. If you recall, if you joined me last week, we read The Most Magnificent Thing, which was a book all about a girl who was kind of a perfectionist and really wanted to build this incredible thing, the most magnificent thing, and felt like she was not being very successful with that. And then eventually she took a step back and was able to see that there were some good things in all of her different versions of her idea, and eventually was able to make something she was happy with. Today we're going to learn about some famous inventors who have really opened the door to tons of things that we use in our lives today, but at the time they might have seemed kind of crazy, and the things that they invented weren't very successful when they invented them. Only many years later did they turn out to be really genius ideas, but at the time they were failures. So today we are going to read a few of the stories in this Gadget Disasters book, and I thought this was kind of a cool way to wrap up our maker-themed activities. Kindergarten and first graders will be joining me next week for some maker activities here in the library. Second, third, fourth, and fifth grades have already come down for these activities with me. And just a quick reminder, friends, next Friday, May 21st, is the very last day to return your library books. You can bring them down anytime before then, but I'm asking that all of our books come back by next Friday, or actually this Friday, May 21st. So thank you for your help with that. It's going to make sure that our computer system is up to date for the next school year. So let's go ahead and read a little bit of Gadget Disasters by Elizabeth Pagel Hogan. I hope you enjoy. All right, friends, as we read this, I really hope you just think about how amazing it was to think of these ideas so long ago, way before other people had really started to use them in the ways that we might be used to now. Being an inventor and imagining new things is not an easy job. It's not an easy thing to do. It requires taking risks. It requires kind of thinking outside the box and using your imagination and creativity to solve problems. So let's see how some of these folks did it in our book here. The first inventor we're going to talk about is Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison was the person who invented the light bulb as we know it, the modern light bulb. But it turns out he invented lots of other things as well. This book has a little more text and a few less pictures than we might be used to for Lunchtime Live, but I will still show it on the screen here for you. So here is chapter 1. Actually, I'm going to read this introduction real quick first. People have always wanted to show off the fastest, coolest, newest gadgets. Inventors are willing to try new ideas and materials to make those gadgets. But even the best planners have some ideas that turn out to be disasters. Learn how even great inventions turned out to be disasters. Chapter 1. Eerie Voices. Edison's Talking Doll. Thomas Edison was a busy inventor. One of his most popular inventions was the phonograph. The phonograph was a device that used a needle to pick up sounds from a spinning cylinder. Then it played the sounds through a loudspeaker. The first sound his phonograph played was the song "Mary Had a Little Lamb." Just think about even that for a second. We're so used to being able to listen to music when we want. Maybe you have an Alexa in your house or something like that, and you can say, "Hey Alexa, play this song for me." This is such a different thing than what we are used to now. So it used a needle that picked up the sounds from a spinning cylinder and then played it through a big loudspeaker. Edison dreamed of inventing a talking doll as early as 1877. That same year, he invented the phonograph. In 1890, he made the dolls a reality. He put a mini phonograph inside each doll. Children turned a key on the back of the doll, and the doll spoke nursery rhymes. So here's kind of how we heard the sound coming from the phonograph. You can sort of see a picture of what it looks like. Step 1, a person speaks into the tube. Step 2, his or her voice causes a vibration. This pushes a needle back and forth in the pattern of the vibration, cutting grooves into a piece of metal foil. The foil is wrapped around a cylinder, which is turned by a motor. Step 4, another needle traces the grooves in the metal. Electrical impulses, that's like little flashes of electricity, are created as the needle bounces along the grooves. Step 5, a horn converts the impulses into sound that can be heard. That is how sound was played through the phonograph. That's pretty different than us playing a song from our phones or something like that. And Thomas Edison not only invented the phonograph, but he thought of a way to make it extra tiny so it can be put inside of a doll. Thomas Edison filed 1,093 U.S. patents and held 2,332 total patents around the world. A patent is a way for you to sort of file your idea with the government so that nobody else can steal your invention. So he had thousands of these. But Japanese inventor Shunpei Yamazaki has him beat. Yamazaki holds 16,836 active U.S. patents and has been named the inventor of more than 28,000 patents. Yamazaki works in the fields of computer science and physics. Here's a picture of Thomas Edison. I'll get it a little closer for you. You can see what he looked like. He was born in 1847, and he passed away in 1931. So here's one of the dolls that Thomas Edison invented. And here's a little fun fact. After Edison's dolls failed, he started calling them little monsters. The doll was 22 inches tall and weighed 4 pounds. And the phonograph inside, this is a picture of the phonograph that was 7 inches tall, and it was inside the doll. And you can see kind of where the sound would come out of the chest. At the time, a talking doll was astonishing. But the dolls were not very popular. They were expensive. Dolls with plain clothes cost $10. A doll with fancy clothes was $25, equal to about $530 in today's money. The dolls said the same thing over and over, and they didn't sound nice. Even Edison described the voices as exceedingly unpleasant. The phonograph's cylinders were fragile and broke easily. This did not make them good toys for children. Edison made 10,000 dolls, but he sold fewer than 500. People didn't like the dolls and returned them. Records show that around 7,500 dolls were never moved from storage. Here's a lesson that we can learn from the failure of Edison's dolls. The technology wasn't right for talking toys during Edison's lifetime. Other talking toys came and went, and after the invention of electronic microchips, though, talking toys became a hit. So there's an expression of being ahead of your time. Thomas Edison was ahead of his time with this invention, right? He had the idea, he developed it, and he built these dolls, but people just weren't ready for it. And maybe the technology wasn't quite good enough for that use at the time. But without his invention, we might not have talking toys that we know today. So it was important that he invented it, even though it was a failure. Here's one more thing about something he invented. Inventors are willing to try making new products and using new materials, even if they seem strange or unusual. Thomas Edison had a factory that made concrete. His concrete was used to build Yankee Stadium for the New York Yankees baseball team. He had so much concrete, he invented other ways to use it. He designed a case for his popular phonograph that was made of concrete. He created a working piano that had a concrete cabinet. He even had plans to build whole houses from concrete. But an invention isn't a success unless people like it and use it. So there you have it. That's a little bit about Thomas Edison. Let's go ahead and learn about another inventor. All right. Can anybody guess what this invention is? It kind of looks pretty futuristic. Let's go ahead and learn about it and why it was a failure. Chapter 7, I'm jumping ahead a little bit in this book. If you like this book, it is available in our library. And when you come back in August, I would love for you to check it out. Chapter 7, Boost Me Up, Bell Rocket Belt. In the 1950s, Wendell Moore had an idea. He decided the world needed a rocket booster pack to help people leap long distances. As an employee at Bell Aerosystems, a huge aviation company, aviation is like the science of things that fly or go in the air or in space. As an employee at Bell Aerosystems, a huge aviation company, he had the skills and resources to make that possible. The first Bell rocket belt looked like a large backpack with handles. It had a fuel tank and 2 nozzles. The fuel tank held 5 gallons of concentrated hydrogen peroxide. So a different kind of fuel than our cars, for example. When the pilot pressed the controls, fuel was forced out of the tanks. The fuel reacted with silver plates, which turned it into a highly pressurized steam. The steam exited through the nozzles and lifted the pilot into the air. In early test flights, the pilot and rocket booster pack often wobbled and went off balance. The pilot and rocket belt were attached to a safety tether so they would not fly too high. So there was sort of like a cable connecting it to the ground just in case things got a little crazy. So this is a picture of the Bell rocket belt, and it weighs 65 pounds. Can you imagine this? Being strapped into this thing and then flying into the air? Moore was one of the test pilots. During one demonstration, his pack tilted and broke the tether. Moore fell from the air. He broke his kneecap. After that, Moore didn't make any more test flights, but he didn't stop working on the rocket belt. The new test pilot, Harold Graham, practiced over and over. He could launch 4 feet in the air and zoom about 100 feet forward before landing. The first flight lasted 13 seconds. Eventually, he learned how to fly in a circle, soar over cars, and slip between trees. But the belt itself didn't improve much. Its flight time maxed out at 21 seconds. The U.S. Army wanted to see the belt in 1961, but officials weren't impressed. The flight time was too short. Inventors worked on a new version that used superheated water vapor for fuel. Right, so just like we had talked about in our previous Lunchtime Live stories this month, they had an idea, they tried it out, maybe it didn't work, and then they tried and they adjusted and they tweaked and they made new versions, trying to improve on the previous versions. That, unfortunately, didn't help. And here's a picture of Harold Graham, the second test pilot, showing off the rocket belt in 1961. Look at him flying off the ground. That didn't help, though. The fuel was so hot, so hot that pilots had to wear insulating clothes to protect themselves from burns. In addition, the height the belt flew at was too low for a parachute to work. If the engine failed in the sky, the pilot would likely be injured. So let's see what we can learn from this failed invention. It's super cool, right? But it unfortunately didn't really work well enough to be something that was a successful product. Even though the Bell rocket didn't take off like Moore hoped, it is still being used. mostly for entertainment. It has been used during events at Disneyland, in the opening ceremonies for the 1984 and 1996 Summer Olympics. Here's a little fun fact. I actually was at the 1996 Summer Olympics in Atlanta, Georgia. It was even used in a James Bond movie. So it ended up being sort of a fun, cool thing to look at, but not something that really solved a problem in our everyday lives. All right, so there's the rocket belt. Pretty cool stuff. And I thought it would be fun to show you a video clip of the rocket belt in action. So here's a quick clip of the Bell rocket belt. Pretty cool stuff, right? So friends, as you get into summer, maybe a fun activity for you to do would be to think about what you could invent. What is a problem you see that maybe doesn't have a solution? Could you invent something to solve that problem, to make people's lives better, to make the world a better place in some way? I'd love to hear what you end up thinking about. That's a fun thing. Maybe use stuff around your house to create an invention over the summer. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody who has joined me for Lunchtime Live every week. We've been doing this for a while now, and it's been a lot of fun to connect with you on these Mondays when you're not in school. And I am wishing you all a wonderful, wonderful summer. I will see those of you who haven't been down for our Maker Playground sometime this week. See you later.